morning, students. Today we are going to learn about figures of speech. Before going to the topic, that is figures of speech, I would request the students that you need to understand the poem first. Before learning the figure of speech, you need to understand the poem. What the poet tries to say in the poem. We need to understand his or her views. What lines has he or she written in the poem, then only we can understand the figure of speech. Right? There are more than 200 figures of speech in English grammar. But at your level, that is in 10th and 12th, there are 26 figures of speech which are important and which you need to know in the particular subject. Right? So before beginning the figure of speech, let us try to understand what it is. The figure of speech is a creation of special effect by the poet to draw the attention of the reader. To draw the attention of the reader. It is a special effect that has been given by the poet through lines so that the reader can understand what the poet tries to say. That is known as figures of speech. There are 26 figures of speech that we are going to discuss in this class. What we will do is we will divide into two parts. 13 figure of speech in part 1 and the remaining 13 figure of speech in part 2. I again request the students, before we begin figure of speech, when you study figures of speech, you need to understand the poem. So you need to read the poem twice and thrice, then only you can understand figure of speech. Right? Number 1. Simile. What is a simile? It is a direct comparison that is made between two unlike objects. Two objects in which there is made a direct comparison. There is a direct comparison between two unlike objects which have at least one common point. Here the comparison is made between two objects or two things which has one common point in it. That figure of speech is known as a simile. Look at the example. So I hope you can understand. Example. The smell of the leaves still reaches like a voice into the room. The smell of the leaves still reaches like a voice into the room. I have taken this line from one poem in which the poet describes about the tree where there was a tree. When he used to open the window, the wings and the branches of the tree used to come inside his window. Right? But suddenly the tree has been vanished. The tree is not there. The tree has been cut down. So in the next lines, the poet tries to say that still the smell of the leaves still reaches like a voice into the room. So here the direct comparison is made between the smell of the leaves and voice into the room, which is not currently present in the poem. I am repeating the explanation again. I have taken this line from one poem in which there was a tree, and when the poet used to open the window, the branches of the tree used to come inside. But suddenly, in the next particular phrases or in the next stanzas, the tree has been cut down. So now that's a melody. So whenever the poet tries to open the particular window, the smell of the leaves still reaches like the voice in the room as it used to reach previously when the tree was there. So when there is a direct comparison between two objects, here the comparison is made between the smell of the leaves and the voice into the room. That still reaches the voice into the room. This kind of lines, when you find in the poem, and when you need to understand the figure of speech, this figure of speech is known as a simile. This figure of speech is known as an simile, a direct comparison between two things or between two unlike objects. That is known as an simile. Number 2, metaphor. What is a metaphor? Metaphor is an indirect comparison. It is an indirect comparison. When we were talking about simile, there was a direct comparison. In metaphor, there is an indirect comparison between two unlike objects. between two unlike objects or between two unlike things, right? Which where comparison is taken for granted, where we have to understand the comparison when we read the poem. That this thing has been particularly compared by that. That is to be understood or that is to be taken for granted. That thing is known as a metaphor. That figure of speech is called as a metaphor. Indirect comparison between two objects or between two things is known as a metaphor. Look at the example. And stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. And stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. I have taken again this line from one poem where a tiger is being caged in a cell, in a zoo, right? And at night he is looking at the stars with his brilliant eyes, at the brilliant star. He is looking at these particular stars from that cell with his brilliant eyes. So what is an indirect comparison? Indirect comparison between eyes of a tiger and stars. Eyes of a tiger and stars. Look at the question again. Stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So whose eyes are brilliant? The eyes of tiger. Stars are always brilliant, right? But here the poet has made an indirect comparison between the eye of a tiger and star. And what is the point of comparison? That is brilliant. That is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. What brilliant? The eyes of tiger with stars. That is to be understood. That is to be understood. That is known as a metaphor. That is known as a metaphor. An indirect comparison between eyes of a tiger and stars. That is known as a metaphor. So when you read this kind of lines in the poem, and when you find an indirect comparison between two unlike objects or between two things, that particular figure of speech is called as metaphor. It's called as a metaphor. Right? Figure of speech number 3. Personification. What is personification? Inanimate objects and abstract notions are said to have human qualities. The things which are not lively or which are not present are given the terms of human qualities. Are given the terms of human qualities. For example, I would say the class is absent. The class can never be absent. It is always the students who are absent. But when you don't find a single student in the class, we say that the class is absent. And when we say that the class is absent, here the class has been given the human quality that is absent. That is absent. That kind of particular lines, when you read in the poem, that particular line is personification. That is personification. Look at one simple example. No sun buries its feet in shadow. No sun buries its feet in shadow. Here, the sun is given the human quality of having a feet. Here, the sun is given the human quality of having a feet. The sun cannot have the feet. The sun cannot have the feet, but it is still given the human quality. It is still given the human quality of having a feet. No sun bury its feet in shadow. When you read this kinds of line in the poem, this line is known as personification. This line is known as personification. Right? I still request the students to read the poem from the eyes of the poet, what the poet tries to say. Then only you will be able to learn the figure of speech. Whatever we are discussing right now in the class, that is all the concepts that you need to understand. What is simile, what is metaphor, what is personification, you need to understand that thing. And when you understand all these figures of speech, you need to apply in all the lines which the poet has written in the poem. Right? I hope the concept is clear. Please note it down. Number four, that is apostrophe. What is an apostrophe? Apostrophe means a direct address is made to a non-living idea as if it were present and capable of understanding. Repeating it again, apostrophe means a direct address is made to a non-living idea, an idea which is not present, that is a non-living idea, as if it were present and incapable of understanding, as if it were present and capable of understanding. In this particular figure of speech, the poet might have tried to remember someone in the poem who is not physically and mentally present with him or her. But still something happens and he remembers that thing. He remembers the other person who is not present. Who is not present. Look at the example so you'll understand. Example. Listen, the glass is breaking. Listen, the glass is breaking. Look at the explanation. Here, the direct address is given to someone who is not present. The glass is breaking, and the poet is trying to say to someone that is, listen, the glass is breaking. But to whom he is saying, listen, the person is not present here. He is talking with himself. So, what does that mean? A non living idea, as if it were present, as if it were present, and capable of understanding what the poet tries to say at that point of time. But still, it is a non-living idea. It is a non-living idea. When you find such kind of lines in the poem, that particular figure of speech is called as an apostrophe. That particular figure of speech is called as an apostrophe. Right? Number 5. Alliteration. What is alliteration? One of the simplest figure of speech. In this, there is a repetition of constant sound. Repetition of constant sound, especially at the beginning of the words. One of the most simplest figure of speech that you might have studied in your standard 8th, 9th, and 10th, most probably, that is alliteration. Look at the example. We can print and plug. We can print and plug. Here the word key, particular in the sentence, P is repeated twice. When you find such kind of sentences in the poem, that is known as alliteration. That is known as an alliteration. Right? Next, repetition. Again, simple figure of speech, that is repetition. The words are being repeated in the line. That figure of speech is known as repetition. Repetition of words and phrases to increase the effect of the word. Look at the example. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. Some say is repeated in one line. Is repeated in one line. Right? Just to increase the effect of the poem. Certain point of time the poet tries to use such kind of words which makes the poem interesting. He might repeat the words in the same line or in the same stanza or in the same particular lines. The poet tries to increase its poetic effectiveness. Right? So when you find such kind of words which are being repeated, that is known as repetition. Right? There is a difference between alliteration and repetition. Please make a note. Alliteration is only considered with the first initial letter of that particular sentence or of the particular word. Here it is only T. But here the words are being repeated. Here the words are being repeated. That is known as a repetition. Some say, in one line. Right? That figure of speech is known as a repetition. Next figure of speech. Tautology. What is a tautology? Tautology means unnecessary use of words which are not required, which does not add any meaning to it, but just it increases the length of the poem, or just it adds any worthless meaning, but it repeats itself. Right? The poet might have used certain kinds of words or certain kinds of lines in which certain words are being repeated, unnecessary use of words which are not actually required. So when we read the poem, we understand, okay, this and this is one and the same meaning in one line. But still, certain kinds of words are being repeated by the poet. And when you find such kind of words, The figure of speech is called as tautology. Look at the example so you will understand. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household. Ink is one kind of character that goes down to the bottom of his household. Down, bottom. One is the same meaning. When you go down, it is considered as if you are going to the bottom level. Still, it has been used in one line. Still, it has been used in one line. When you find such kind of sentences in the poem, the figure of speech is known as tautology. I'm repeating it again, unnecessary use of words or ideas just to add worthless meaning, which does not require in the particular line or in the particular poem, as it has already been said in the previous lines. When you find such kind of sentences in the poem, that figure of speech is known as tautology. That figure of speech is known as tautology. Right? I hope the concept of is clear. That is apostrophe, alliteration, repetition, and tautology. Please make a note. We are moving towards the next figure of speech, that is number 8, that is antithesis. What is antithesis? Antithesis means and contrasting or opposite ideas or words that are used. In the poem, certain point of time, the poet uses contrasting or opposite ideas in the same line, right, for the better poetic effect. Look at the example so you'll understand the concept. The caged bird sings for freedom. In this example, there are two opposite things that has been mentioned in one sentence. That is about a caged bird, and the second one is about the freedom, right? Freedom and caged birds, both are opposite ideas. Both are opposite ideas that are being used in a single line for better poetic effect. When this happens, the figure of speech is antithesis. I'm repeating it again, contrasting or opposite ideas or words like this are being used in the same sentence. The figure of speech is antithesis, right? Number 9, oxymoron. Where two contradictory terms are united to give the expression to a point. It is slightly different from antithesis. In these things, there are two contradictory terms. Contradictory means different or opposite terms. You can term it a different way, or you can say it is an opposite way. But they are being united. They are being united. Two opposite things have the same meanings, and they are being made united to give expression to a particular point. What does the poet wants to say? What does the poet is trying to give a message? That is what it is, oxymoron, right? Look at the example so you'll understand the concept. And climbing moon grows small. As the moon climbs, that means as the night is getting deeper and deeper, right? The size of the moon becomes smaller and smaller. If you see the moon at midnight 2 a.m., it will give its maximum light. If you see the moon at 4 a.m., there is slightly morning, so the small light of the moon diminishes. If you see the moon at 5:30 or 6 a.m., right, it starts to grow small. So as the day enters through the waves of sunlight, the climbing moon slowly comes down, or it grows small. Two opposite things, two opposite meanings, right? On one side they are talking about climbing, and on the other side they are talking about growing small. As you climb, right, you go to a higher level. No one reaches down, right? If you are reaching down, if you are moving towards down steps, then you are getting to smaller steps. But if you are going on in higher stages, if you are climbing the stairs, right, obviously you are going to be high, but here it is small. So that is a contrasting term. That is a contrasting term used in the same sentence for better poetic effect. Right? At certain point of time, poet uses a contradictory terms which makes united to give an expression to a particular point. That means as the night goes, the sun rises, and as the sun rises, the climbing moon grows small. The climbing moon grows small. When you find such kind of sentences in the poem, the figure of speech is oxymoron. The figure of speech is oxymoron, right? You'll understand all the figure of speech in a more better way when we discuss the poem in the class, and when I'll give you the proper meaning of what does the poet tries to say, or what is the message of the poem the poet wants to convey to its readers. So at that point of time, it would be easy for you to understand which figure of speech it is. Right now, you just need to focus on the concepts, the figure of speech, and what is the meaning, what it tries to say. Right? Next, number 10. The real meaning, that is irony. What is irony? The real meaning is exactly opposite of that what is literally conveyed. What does the poet tries to say, that is the real meaning, is exactly the opposite. That is not what he is trying to say. He is trying to say the opposite thing, right, of what is literally conveyed. Whatever the lines that the poet is using in the poem, right, and whatever the meaning that he tries to convey, that is not the actual meaning he wants to convey. He wants to convey the opposite meaning. He wants to convey the opposite meaning to the reader. That is what the figure of speech, that is known as irony. That is known as irony. Look at the example. And Custer said, "I quite agree that everybody is braver than me." In this poem, there is one character that is named as Custard, right? During the time of problems, during the time of, resistance, right? There are people who are running away from their responsibility. And this character is always been pinpointed that you are, fearful, you don't have any guts, you don't have any powers to act, you are not, you are always lazy, you always find a safe corner. But actually in the poem, when there is any kind of help required, it is always the Custard who stands in front of it and manages everything. And when everything becomes okay, the remaining characters from the poem comes out and puts the Custard's side. This is irony. This is irony. And that is why Custard himself says in the poem that I quite agree that everybody is braver than me. That everybody is braver than me. That is what Custard is trying to say. But in a taunt, in a different way. When you find this kind of sentence, that figure of speech is irony. That figure of speech is irony. Right? I hope the concept is clear. Next, epigram. What is an epigram? A brief saying which is introduced with an aim, a particular kind of saying said by the poet, right? What is the objective or the aim? Either to excite, either to surprise, or either to draw the attention. There are certain lines in the poem. When you read the poem, there are different messages of different lines of the poet. What he tries to convey the message to its reader. At certain point of time, the reader becomes lazy. The reader becomes bored of reading the poem. At that point of time, to make the poem interesting, right, to draw back the attention of the reader again, he uses certain kind of sentences or certain kind of lines to draw the attention. Either maybe a line of an excitement, either maybe a line of a surprise, or either may to draw attention. Look at the example so the concept is clear. Example is, our touch can change all the things. For example, let us say if you are reading a poem in which a particular character knows each and everything, right? And when you read the poem, you understand that this character, if he says everything, what is going on, and if he accepts all his responsibility, and if he sees the truth, right, everything will be okay. That is what you understand when you read the poem, right? But when you are understanding that thing and that thing has not been mentioned, poet uses certain kind of sentences to draw the attention. So what does the poet do? He mentions a kind of attention, a kind of surprise, and he draws the attention. And he mentions such kind of sentences or lines in the poem that if this particular person does like this, everything will be okay. If this particular character does like this, then this would not be the result, or this would not be any kind of negative result, right? I'm saying it again. To draw a attention, that is either through an excitement, either through surprise, either to draw a specific attention. When you are reading the poem, you are going it with a flow, right? And when you are going it with a flow, there are points of time that you try to understand the poem from the poet's point of view.
right? And when you try to understand the poem from a poet's point of view, at that point of time, he draws your attention. He draws your attention. And when he draws his attention, just like this, our touch can change all the things. That means a certain character in the poem, if he confess everything, if he says everything, right, everything in the poem will be good, will be happy, and the poem would be ending on a happy note. That is what you understand when you read a poem. So that draws your attention. That draws your attention, right? So certain kinds of lines poet uses for the better poetic effect. When you find that kind of lines, that is an epigram. That is an epigram, right? Next, that is number 12. Paradox. What does paradox say? A statement which has some hidden truth. A statement which has some hidden truth. When you read the sentence, when you read the line from a particular stanza, you understand that this is what the poet is trying to say. There is a hidden truth in the sentence. And when you understand that sentence, that particular figure of speech is paradox. That particular figure of speech is paradox. Look at the example again so you will understand. A caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. A caged bird. There is a bird who is caged, stands on the grave of dreams. The dreams are being ended. That means a bird that has been caged. And when the bird has been caged, he loses his freedom to fly. He loses his freedom to fly. And when he loses his freedoms, that is the hidden truth in the sentence. How the sentence has been mentioned? A caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. That means when a bird is caged, he cannot or he is not able to fly anymore. So the dreams are being shattered as the bird has been put behind the bars. That means in a steel cage. So he cannot fly. So all the dreams are being moved on the grave. That means that is the end of his life. This different meanings, this different hidden truth that he conveys in one single line. That he conveys in one single line. And when you find such kind of figure of speech, that is known as paradox. That is known as paradox. I hope the concept is clear. Right? Please make a note of it. Next figure of speech. That is number 13. Right? Metonymy. What does metonymy say? Metonymy means a thing which is represented by a thing. That means a particular thing or an object or a particular thing that is represented by some other thing or by compared with some other object, right? Which is closely related to each other. Which is closely related to each other. That figure of speech is known as metonymy. Comparison. That is comparison which are closely related to each other. They are not being compared directly, right? Make a note, they are not being compared directly. It is where the poet tries to compare it with other things which are not, in the poem, which are not in the message of the poem, but they try to compare as they are closely related. As they are closely related, might be their character, might be their attitude, might be their behavior or something else. Right? When you find such kind of lines in the poem, that figure of speech is known as metonymy. Look at the example so you'll understand. There is a languid emerald sea where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid drifting blissfully. A mermaid drifting blissfully. Right? Here, the mermaid, you know what are mermaids? They, they swim in the water, right? They are fishes. Mermaid represents Amanda. There is one story, right, in the poem about a girl, that is Amanda, who wants to live his life carefree, who wants to live his life with full freedom. She wants to do whatever she wants. She is not ready to listen to her parents, to her grandparents, or to anyone. Whatever she wants, she likes, and she likes to do that thing. And when she is thinking like his life like that, at that point of time, she compares her life with a mermaid. She compares her life with a mermaid as they can roam freely in the water wherever they want. There is no comparison between mermaid and Amanda, as both are different concepts. But the characteristics of a mermaid is so imaginative by that beautiful girl, that is Amanda, that she compares herself with a beautiful mermaid. As the mermaid lives his life in his own way, very beautifully. And so she thinks like that. She has always been pinpointed by her mother, by her father, and by her relatives. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, and don't do all these activities. At that point of time, she sits and thinks that the mermaids are very beautiful. They are free to go anywhere. So here she thinks about that particular mermaid, and that mermaid represents Amanda. That mermaid represents Amanda. Right? I hope the concept is clear. Right? I request the students again, when we are talking about figures of speech, you need to read the poem, you need to read the different particular stanzas that has been given in the poem, right? And try to understand each and every particular stanza, or you can say each and every particular line, what does the poet tries to say. Then only you will understand the figure of speech. Right? Please make a note of it.